In this section, we're going to take a look at management pack templates. Whenever you install Operations Manager, several management pack templates are included. There are templates to monitor TCP ports, Windows services, web application availability, and application performance monitoring. In this section, we're going to take a look at application performance monitoring overview. We'll also look at end-to-end service monitoring by using distributed applications, and we will look at all of the different management pack templates that are included in Operations Manager 2016. Some years ago, Microsoft acquired a company called AVI Code, and at the time, AVI Code was recognized as a leader in .NET application performance monitoring. This company had a suite of sophisticated monitoring performance applications, and these applications were used throughout the full application lifecycle to monitor .NET applications. And with the use of some connectors and some additional management packs, you were able to take this standalone product, which was AVI Code, and it had the ability to integrate with Operations Manager 2007. And the only thing was that AVI Code was very expensive, so only larger companies tended to use it to monitor their mission-critical .NET applications. Actually, Microsoft was a customer themselves, and they actually used the product to monitor their Xbox Live platform. With System Center 2012 Operations Manager, AVI Code was actually added as part of the built-in application performance monitoring feature. So now with this new feature, you can monitor IIS 7, 8, and 10 .NET applications from both a server and a client perspective. So you can gain a lot of important information about how your critical .NET applications are actually performing and what's their reliability. And it also solves the mystery of the network guy pointing at the dev team pointing back at the networking team, or them both pointing at the ISP for the connection being slow. So in this video, we'll look at application performance monitoring overview. We will look at application performance monitoring, the server-side monitoring, the client-side monitoring, and the .NET application performance monitoring template that's included with Operations Manager. .NET Application Performance Monitoring in Operations Manager 2016 allows you to monitor IIS hosted web applications from both the client and the server perspective. You can actually create baselines that'll show you the frequency of a recurring problem, basically what the performance of the server is, either prior to the problem, during the problem, and all the related events to the underlying complaint of the users. And you can also do monitoring from the client perspective. Basically, you can detect issues from the performance of the browser, what the user would actually experience. So not only could you see what the issue is on the server side, but basically you can monitor and kind of get a feel for the client's perspective as to and maybe a website opening up slowly or a page opening up slowly. You can actually detect that with the application performance monitoring feature. So some of the features of the .NET application performance monitoring, you can monitor your applications without having to write a specific sophisticated management pack. You can monitor your applications with the same tools that you use to monitor your infrastructure, just with the addition of several management packs. There's no requirement for your dev team to add any kind of additional code to that particular application or make any modifications to the website. You can monitor both the server side and client side perspective, and you can actually monitor the Windows services that are built on the .NET framework. Now, server-side monitoring is the most common type of application performance monitoring that you will deploy, because this is where you can actually measure and monitor the performance of the application from the server, the request that the server is sending or receiving. And server-side monitoring is run from within the data center, and server-side monitoring is also one of the prerequisites for your client-side monitoring. So you cannot enable client-side monitoring until you first enable and configure server-side monitoring. Now, in some later videos, I'll actually walk you through how to set up server-side and client-side monitoring for application performance monitoring. Now, the client-side monitoring, this type of monitoring allows you to monitor the performance of the web browser basically from the end user perspective. So with client-side monitoring enabled, there's some JavaScript code that's automatically added to different pages in your web server that's actually hosting the application. And it gives you some performance metrics as to how this particular website is performing. When a client clicks on another page inside the browser, how quickly does that particular page loads? And you can see the problem as if the client is actually experiencing the problem. Also, client-side monitoring, as I mentioned, requires the server-side monitoring to first be configured. And when you have configured both server-side and client-side monitoring, from there you can quickly ascertain whether the problem exists on the server, or whether the problem is within bad code that's written in the application, or even if the problem is related to the network latency issues. So this particular application performance monitoring feature is so powerful. It gives you pretty much everything that you would need to know as to exactly where the issue is when it comes to your web applications. The prerequisites for .NET Application Performance Monitoring template in the console to select an ASP.NET application or services that's hosted on an IIS 7, 8, or 10, you actually have to import. For IIS 7, you would have to import the Ops Manager APM Web IIS 7 Management Pack or the IIS 8 Management Pack for IIS 8 applications, or the APM Web IIS 10 Management Packs, depending on what version of IIS you actually have installed, and the Windows Server 2008 or 2012 IIS 7, 8, or 10 management packs. Now these APM Web IIS management packs and the ones for the server, they're actually on the media in the management pack folder. So you would just import them prior to setting up your .NET Performance Monitoring. To create a .NET Application Performance Monitoring, you would go to the authoring pane, open up your management pack templates, right mouse click .NET Application Performance Monitoring, and that would open up the wizard to allow you to select what monitoring type you're going to use, the .NET Application Performance Monitoring, along with any of the other monitoring templates. And then you can go in and configure the properties, what do you want to monitor, configure the client, the server side, and then the client side configurations, and it will immediately start monitoring. And as I mentioned earlier, I will actually walk you through how to perform that in a later video. This concludes our overview of application performance monitoring. In our next video, we'll look at how to perform end-to-end service monitoring using distributed applications.